Hey everybody, this is Volen in Pursuit of Art. I want to talk to you guys today about improvement, getting better. I want to talk to you about the behind the scenes stuff, the things that are not necessarily seen and unfortunately not necessarily appreciated or understood, especially by more beginner artists. I'm going to talk to you about practice. I'm going to talk to you about projects and how those two are different, how they go hand in hand, regardless of that. And I'm also going to show you some stuff after. So we're going to do a little bit of intro and then talk to you about the concepts. And then I'm going to show you how I've applied those to my own work. I'm going to show you some pretty horrible work because that's what the practice looks like. I'm also going to show it to you because I didn't want to show it to you. So when I was trying to pick up the thread of where am I going to start with the videos now, what am I going to show, what am I going to talk to you guys about, and I just had the idea, hey, maybe I'll just show some artwork. And then I scrolled through and I just thought to myself, you know what, even though that's fairly recent, it's from, let's say, last year when I thought I made some good improvements, it still looks like crap. It's kind of cringy. I don't really want to show that. And that's why I think I should show it to you, because that's what improvement looks like. And if I don't feel like showing it, and if I feel cringy, I'm sure there's thousands of other people that feel the same way. And that really doesn't mean that it shouldn't be shown, because it's part of the process. So I'm going to show you some of that stuff. I'm going to show you my projects, my practice now. And I've been recording a ton of what I've been doing for you guys. Almost everything that I've been working on for the last couple of months, I've been recording. So I have a huge backlog of stuff that I just need to edit down, narrate, and put up for you guys. But now, this message first. Let's do practice and project. Let's talk about that. Practice is what happens behind the scenes. And practice versus project is, you may have also heard this phrased as process versus product. Process and practice, or product and project. Basically, practice is what happens behind the scenes. It's the dancer working on their moves, or the acrobat, the gymnast, just trying to get that next piece of their repertoire just right, trying to get stronger, trying to develop a certain muscle that they may need to work on in order to pull off that next move. It's the violinist testing out just how much pressure they should apply with the bow or with their fingers. Now, one thing about practice and what sets art apart from these other disciplines is that at the end of art, you always have something. You're actually building physical things. Now, whether you're digital or traditional, you still have something. You have a file. You have something that you've made, and you can look at it and you can judge it. Now, for beginners, this is kind of catastrophic because your work is going to look horrible. It just comes with the territory. Bro, it's supposed to look bad. Why would you be a beginner and have good work? If you did have good work as a beginner, it was an accident. I'm sorry. It's just how it goes. If you're a beginner, you are consistently failing, but that is your territory. That's what you're supposed to do. As a more advanced pro, you're still consistently failing. It's just that your level of failure is, you're failing at a higher level. So it looks more impressive to other people. But to you, to the practitioner, you're always failing. Now that's not, I don't mean that as in like, oh, please just kill me now to get it over with. You're failing because you're always reaching for that next level. You're always targeting. You're always examining weakness. It's just like an athlete working. You're never done. I mean, you might be fast now. You can get faster. You might be the fastest. You may get faster. And chances are, 5-10 years from now, there's going to be someone that's going to beat all your records. So human evolution, we're not done. Your personal evolution, you're not done. These things are continuous, incessant. We're always going for that next piece. Now, art, like we said, you're always left with a physical something at the end of your practice session. The dancer, the violinist, the musician, they will have something that they've played and they've encoded in their brain. Let's say the dancer's doing their move. There's nothing that they can show. Now they can record, obviously, there can be some sort of evidence of the session, but really there's no outcome that's necessary. That's what I'm saying. If you go as a dancer to practice, you don't necessarily record every session. You don't necessarily, if you're just messing with your violin, always record every session. But as an artist, every session is recorded. And as a beginner, a lot of times people will look at what they've just drawn, what they've just painted, and they will feel about it a certain way. More often than not, they'll feel pretty horribly about it. And I've had people that I've talked to personally, and they say, I can't get to practice. I just can't get started because it's so painful. I'm anticipating the end result. I know it'll be horrible. I have all these grand ambitions of what I'd like to be doing, but I can't get there. It's just, I can't get started. And this is practice. This is where practice comes in. Practice is notably different from projects in a few ways. Practice is outcome independent. You're working on your craft, bro. You're just testing out your brushes. You're checking out how your tools work. You're testing your brushes. You're looking at your colors. You're throwing some stuff around. You're getting familiar with your environment, with your territory, with what you'll be working with. You're trying out that new pencil. You're trying out a different grip. You're trying out different strokes from different lengths. You are the dancer. You are the acrobat, trying out that different physical move. Or you're also the musician. You're looking for that tone. You're looking for that tone that you just put down. It's not audible, it's not auditory, it's visible. But you're practicing the same things with your brain. You're just mapping different things. You are mapping color, you are mapping value, you are mapping, even the language is shared. That's why I mentioned tone, right? You're just looking for those visual tones, those visual notes, those harmonies, that design that goes in there. When you're practicing, even though you have something at the end, that's actually just, that's a sweaty t-shirt. Like, that's literally what that is. At the end of your practice session, same as you just went for a workout. Dude, you have nothing to show necessarily. You don't need to look at that and assess it. What you have is you just have your gym shirt. Would you necessarily save all your gym shirts, look at them and examine, hey, I sweated 2 ounces of sweat on that workout. That was probably good. Hey, this one over here, it looks like Scarecrow from Batman. That was a good art exercise session. When you're doing practice, you literally just, they're throwaway sessions. It's your workout at the gym. You go in, you have something very specific you're working on. You're doing your 100 push-ups, or you're doing your value ID. You're trying to just look at things and identify value accurately. Maybe next time you try and transcribe it. Then next time, maybe you do your edges in between those values that you just put down. Maybe you look for some color. Maybe you're trying to identify different hues. Maybe you're working a bit more advanced. You're looking at temperature. Maybe you're trying to tweak saturation and just check out how complementary contrast works. Practice sessions are just that, workouts. They're, even though you have something left at the end of it, doesn't mean anything. If it's good, cool, next workout. If it's bad, cool, next workout. What did I learn from it though? Okay, let's transition into projects now. And, why do I even lump those together? Practice, individual sessions, daily. Project is, essentially, it's a long practice session. It's something that you go back into. It's a project. It's a performance, let's say. You are essentially stringing together all of those different things that you're practicing, and you're now testing. All this stuff, am I just practicing for no reason? Is my practice deliberate enough? Am I just sitting down and doing stuff but not really paying attention? Is what I'm doing a good idea? Is it viable? That's essentially what you're doing. Another thing with projects, which is great, is that you're extremely highly likely to fail. You'll always be failing, like I said. You will always be just short of where you'd like to be. Now, the one great thing about failing is what's called the RAS in your brain, the reticular activation system. What that means is that your brain will basically just constantly be trying to detect value. Meaning, hey, what's important? for this thing that I'm doing, what's important? This goes for anything. Like this goes for art, this goes for physical training, it goes really any discipline. Jiu-jitsu, martial arts, music. Anytime that you fail at something, you now have a much clearer idea of what you thought you knew, but hadn't really internalized. You hadn't really deeply committed into your brain. It wasn't integrated so that it can flow and mesh with all the other things that are happening in your brain, with all the other sub skills. It wasn't quite there. So when you do a project, and a project is, like I said, it's a performance. It's basically a finished piece. Or if it's not a finished piece, it's at least a portion of something that you're deliberately trying to construct. So it's no longer just throwaway. Now it's, hey, let's put some stakes on this thing. I don't mean steaks as in meat. I mean, let's have some stake in this thing. Let's have an outcome that we need to accomplish. Let's have something that we aim for. And now you can see if you hit it or you missed. And if you missed, and you will, you should be missing, by the way. If you have good projects that are meant to stretch you, you should be missing. Not by a huge degree. So not like, hey, target's over there. I just blew up my grandma's house behind. I'm pointing here, by the way. I just blew up my granny's house over. I had the bazooka on backwards, dude. Can you imagine? Damn. Sorry, Granny. I'm going to do that. Next week I have some time. I'm going to build your cardboard box thing. If that's your project, if you miss by that much, that's too much. That's more than stretching. You should have something that's achievable. Give you an example. Let's say you're doing figure drawings every day, and you're doing figure drawing, figure drawing, figure drawing. You're just sitting down. Let's say you're doing your 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Now, that practice that you're doing, how does that fit into your overall scheme of how you're improving? What project is this practice going to apply to? So let's say that you're more of a novice in figures. Let's say that you're just getting started and you're doing your figures. And let's say you're going to have a project that, let's not do a whole figure yet, because example here is novice. So let's say we're just going to build an arm, just going to build a leg. So practice every day. And then let's say after a couple days, let's try that arm. So try that arm out. How did the anatomy work out? How was the proportion structured? What things did you miss? What did you think you know? Because when you look at the solution, it's always clear. But how did you fail when you actually tried to execute? Was it very stiff? Like was the gesture of it pretty bad? Was the proportion of it well remembered? Was the anatomy of it clear? Was it maybe that you just didn't have enough drawing skill or value skill to pull that off? Maybe your project isn't really geared to where you are right now. Maybe you should actually focus on value first or drawing first, if those are proving to be the constraints in creating your project, which is the arm here. And even then, that arm, what's that part of a project, of a bigger project for? Are you wanting to be a character artist? Are you wanting to use the figure as a storytelling device? Or are you just, what exactly is it that you're trying to learn? Are you using it as a design tool so that, let's say, you can take some of those strokes and forms from anatomy and apply them to something else? Are you looking for the function behind it? What exactly is the bigger picture and how does it fit? Projects test you in different ways, because projects is now where everything gels together. And it's no longer even just one, like I gave you the example now of just, hey, let's do an arm. But as you can see, it's not necessarily only related to figures. It could be a figure issue. It could be the anatomy, but it could be the drawing. It could be the values. It could be that you're just not really familiar with how, stupid car. Maybe it's the perspective that wasn't right. So there's many different things that could have gone wrong. So a project is essentially a test for multiple skills to come together. So you can have a look and examine what exactly didn't go well. So now you can take that and put that into your practice and have that be your daily thing, your daily session that you go in. I'm just going to improve by 1%. I'm going to improve by 0.5% and do it again and do it again. And then fire off another project, test it out. Hey, this worked better. But now this is turning out to be the problem. Hey, let's go on that next. Let's examine that. So they go hand in hand, they're interlocked. Practice for no reason is useless in a lot of ways. It's definitely better than nothing, but in order to be effective, you should really have something that you're going to apply it to, so that your brain can actually take stock, like we said, the RAS, to just check for value. Hey, what have I been missing? What is it that, I'm seeing it every day, but I'm just not able to apply? If practice by itself just work, like if you could just take something because you're seeing it all the time, everyone will be an expert in everything. What I mean by that is that you already have a ton of information about everything. Like you can look at a figure, okay, I get it. I get how it's positioned, I get the gesture, I get the anatomy, blah, blah, blah. When you go to fire off on it, when you do your project that's going to involve figures, that's when you can really tell what you're seeing, but you're not really noticing in what you're seeing. So the next time you go and you look at that figure, it's like, dude, I never noticed, let's say, that the distance between the joints is this much, or that, let's say, the deltoid attaches that low, or that the brachialis is visible in this angle, or when this is activated, or so many things that will start jumping out at you when you have specific uses for them. Some distinctions also in what a project feels versus practice. Practice, like we said, is throwaway. One thing about a project is that it'll be a good test for actual skill level. This goes both ways, by the way. A lot of people think that they're worse than they are because they just never finish anything. Like they never go back to that thing and really just finish it up. Like finish your project, dude. It's 20% done. You have the skill level for it, but you're not finishing. So people can have the idea that they're actually worse than they are. And in fact, you're better. Your process sucks. You're not finishing, but you're better. If you finished, is there anything even to say here? Immediate level up. Why don't you just finish? And then the reverse of that is that you might be letting yourself off the hook. This is probably my problem. If all you do is practice and then you never put that into something, then hey, you might actually be thinking that you're better than you are, because individual pieces may look impressive, but when you go to put them together, they don't gel, bro. They fight against each other. There's like jagged edges and just pieces misaligned, everything pushing against everything else. It takes both of those. It takes practice and it takes projects to be able to really test and verify if what you're learning is correct and viable. One thing about projects is that they feel different. You're going to have to develop some different mental skills for that. Perseverance. You're going to have to come back to the same thing over and over and over until it's done. Problem solving. You're going to have to identify what worked and what didn't. How do I solve it? And if I don't know how to solve it, where do I get the info from it? So it's a long-term project. It's like building a house versus, hey, I'm just going to carry bricks every day. Carrying bricks every day, that's the practice. Building the house, that's the project. Requires a much bigger blueprint, a lot more understanding, and both are required. If no one carries your bricks, you're not going to have a house. I don't care how much you know. So it requires perseverance, persistence. It also will develop mental toughness. Like this might sound like, what do you need that for? It's not hard. Just sit down and do it. Duh. Like I've said though, there's actually a lot of anxiety when you have nothing. Like when there's nothing going on and you have no idea how to solve a problem. That's just intrinsically stressful for your brain. It's intrinsically stressful to be forced or faced with something and to not have a solution for it. Ambiguity, right? The devil you know versus the one you don't, or whatever that saying is supposed to be. The devil you know, right? Meaning that I prefer something that's bad that I know versus something that I don't know. That might be better, but it might be worse. I just prefer the known. Dude, I prefer the known. I choose to stay in my known misery than to go and do something different. That's what we are. We're biased. We're wired to have and to want certainty and security coming from predictability. If you're faced with making a design and you don't know how to, that was really stressful for me years ago, especially when I first started at my job, which didn't really have a lot of design or anything like that. But when I was called on, hey, can you just do like some simple artwork for something? And like, I have no idea what to do and what's it supposed to look like and how's it, I don't know. Like, well, how about this one or how about that one? Or a lot of times just, I have no idea. I don't know. And that's pretty stressful because you have something now that's you have to do, but you don't know how. Uncertainty is a huge panic inducer in your brain. Anxiety all the way. I'm sure you felt it. And if you haven't, just sit down now and try and come up with something impressive. Like that's it. Just that's your job description. Hey, we need, this world for this game slash movie, whatever. Yeah, we don't know anything about it. Make it cool. See you Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday is good. That's tomorrow. Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. I'll see you tomorrow. Getting back on topic here. So, mental toughness, perseverance, staying in discomfort, same ability that any athlete, any high level discipline, anything would need. When you are not sure how to solve the problem and when things are going wrong and you have no clear cut procedure to follow and you just have to push it through somehow to the best of your ability. And like I said, projects are going to fail, going to look horribly, but keep on doing that continuous improvement and you will fail at a higher level to the point where at some point they'll just look impressive, regardless of whether you feel it was a success or not. You will have just built it to a high enough level so that it's just good, regardless of whether you considered it a success or not. I think we'll wrap here with that. I'm hoping that this was clear enough. Shoot me some questions about anything that I may have said or may not have said that you'd like me to expand on a bit more. And I'm gonna have an in-depth new video on that. And now I'll just show you quickly some crappy artwork because that's what practice looks like. All right, now let me show you some horrible artwork really quickly before we wrap up here. And one caveat, if you think that it's actually not horrible artwork, I'm not actually saying it so to be like false modest or anything like that. It's my practice, basically. If you think it looks good, thank you. I probably think we'll agree that it doesn't. So I'll show you some of the pretty horrid stuff. And this is fairly recent. And like I said, this felt pretty cringy when I thought, hey, let me just show some of my worst things. So that's why I'm going to show them to you. I'm going to show you this stuff here, which I really could have done with almost zero practice ever. A lot, most likely. Very early on. What these are, though, is that these are just 20-minute quick. I got this from Anthony Jones, as he said that he was making basically just lumpy monsters. And this is so you practice form. So at this point of my practice, I decided that I really need to improve on my form from just with no reference. So I thought I'm going to start doing these and I'm going to just start doing one a day or maybe a couple a day, but they'll be very quick. They'll be 10, 15, 20 minutes. So that's why they look pretty horrid. And it's not just because they're monsters, but because they're just not rendered very well. But that's because it's just practice. That's what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to show me where all the weaknesses are. And when I look at them now, I can ID much better. Hey, you know what? Like this really reads as translucent, not enough good definition of form. And this was fortunately quite a while ago. So I can show you these and look at them and be happy that I can do better now. But they just require a lot more definition. Now, how do you solve, when you have a problem of, okay, I'm doing these, they're all horrible, but how do I actually know what to do next or what do I do? Is find reference. So look at what you've done, then look at how it should look. And as close as possible to that. If you could just make a lumpy something in ZBrush, put it in 3D, or just make yourself a lumpy clay something. It doesn't matter if you use software or not. Just find the model of what you're trying to do, see how it should look, and then see what you've done that's different to how it should look. Easy enough in terms of solution. So sometimes just what I want to say here is that practicing over and over and over, sometimes, especially if you're practicing the wrong thing or you're not really implementing a solution, it won't make you better. You have to have a very guided, good solution to what you're doing. So more horrible stuff. I'll basically just go left and right here. And I'm trying to wrap up, which is why we're going a bit quick. These are not to show, right? That's the point of them. And if you're looking at these in terms of quality, and which is why I'm showing these, and I'm hoping that you make the comparison with your own work, is if you're just looking at what you've done in 20, 30 minutes, or even if it took you all of yesterday and it's horrible, well, it's just practice, my friend. So don't look at it as if, oh, it's horrible, it's never gonna get done, I guess tooth fairy just didn't give me jeans for drawing, and she gave me other things. These are not the show. Like, no one will ever know about these except for absolutely everyone that watches this video right now. These are just for me. These are just to iron out kinks in the process, to figure out things in my brain that make or don't make sense, and to then, okay, cool, move on. What do we do next? Where do we go from here? So I'm actually showing you stuff that I would not show because it's not for show. And sometimes I'll go through something like this guy, and this guy is actually a project. He's more of a project compared to everything else you saw. This guy too, he's a little bit more finished. He's a little bit more of a project than everything else. Practice kind of looks like this. Practice kind of looks like just, okay, this is weird, doesn't really make sense, but hey, it's what I can do. Okay, move on, next, next, next. And sometimes when I just go and I get to an image that's a bit more finished, you should be able to tell, hey, this is a project. Okay, this is more practicey. Maybe you can think of it as a project. It's actually because it used a lot of photo, so it actually looks okay. This was more of a project at the time. Still quite a few issues that I wasn't able to resolve at the time with depth, with just how things should look, but ironing it out, doing a project, figuring out what didn't go well, seeing the problems that I can solve. Okay, cool, moving on, and more, and more, and more, and more. And I can just, this has been for years, right? I can just go like this and you will see a lot of crap, and then here and there something that's a little bit better or a little bit more finished, and then a lot more crap, and then something that's more finished here and there. The proportion of crap to good is 95% to 5%. And here we go, getting to a little bit more. Should be some more finished things over here, which is just how the sorting works. That's why they're there. So trying to not go on for too long, show you some other things. Let me show you some projects now. So a lot of the practice you already saw. So the practice is just basically the stuff you're not supposed to, these are the sweaty shirts. Sorry to put it that way, but these are just the things that aren't meant to be seen because they're just to iron out things in my brain. Even though there is a product at the end, it's not actually to be shown. It wasn't meant for a product. Let me show you a couple of things. I think we've gone on way too long here. So I'll show you a couple of, this is what, like something like this is what you would get to see. Now this, like I said before, even though it's a project and it's supposed to be finished, there's still the limitations of my understanding at the time. So this is from quite a while ago now, because time just goes by so fast that even though it feels recent, it's already quite a while ago now. So some things could have definitely been done and handled better. Now, does it look different to the practice? Yes, it does, because it's just more pushed, as much as possible, with whatever it is that you can do, you just do it. And then whatever you can do, cool, I'm done, move on to the next thing, and I'll do better next time. A lot of things here, the lighting could have been handled better. I also have a tendency to make things quite dark. Also, you can't really tell if this is water or like cement, like what it's supposed to be. The material's a bit ambiguous, and that's because I wasn't clear about what it was supposed to be. Also, bounce light should probably work a little bit differently here, and yeah, a lot of things that could be ironed out. But okay, cool. Next, we'll fix it in the next one. And this is, I'm just going to scroll through some more finished things. They're not meant to be good. They're not meant, and sometimes, like I said, you fail even with the projects. This thing is pretty unclear. What's in front of what? If it's an environment, depth cues, important things that I just couldn't do at the time. Next, here's another one. Same problem, by the way, depth cues. It's good to do a lot of projects because then you can actually figure out, hey, what's a common thing? So you can see depth doesn't really read very well. Depth doesn't really read very clearly either. Is this one piece? Is this in front of that? You can start to form patterns about what you're doing well and what you're doing not so well when you're doing projects. You can actually observe when you have 3, 4, 5, hey, what went well, what didn't go so well. This thing, I was trying to build complexity by just building everything in 3D. Ended up being a little bit stiff though. It's messy. Can't really tell stuff. But at the time, I was impressed by it because it was complex. Here's another one that I was trying to do that's all modeled in 3D. I just wanted to make the complexity of a city basically in different ways through 3D. I wanted to see if I can make do what it takes to do that. So another take ended up being pretty stiff again. So that's a common thing. So if you're using 3D, make sure it's not turning out too stiff. This is painting. So this was meant to be a color study. So features aren't necessarily done very well. With the color, I'm sort of okay with the color. That was the point. I'm zooming in here so you can see some of the layering. I've actually recorded this for you guys. And this is also recorded. I'm not too sure if I'll share this one. So let me know if you'd be interested. I just don't think it's a great piece. This I've recorded for you. This is when I was learning CAD. This is another project, meaning that it just took coming back to this thing over and over because I was learning the software. And it took me days to put this thing together. But now I can probably do it in a couple hours. That's how the project works. It's what it's meant to do. And something more recent, I've also recorded this. It's about 12 hours in so far. Now getting a little bit better. This is more recent, like I said. In fact, I'm still working on this now. Compared to like the previous environments where depth really wasn't very clear and lots of stuff going on, which good or bad, depending on what the goal is for the image. And here we go, wrapping up. Something more recent. All recorded for you guys and looking forward to sharing. Hope you get some good value from this. Hit me up with some questions. Let me know what you could use some more info on. Let me know what's clear. Let me know what doesn't make sense out of what I say. Hoping that these are getting to be more useful for you. Trying to keep them short, but it's just very hard. Trying to get all the info out. You can find me over here. There's a blog, there's Instagram, there's Facebook. I post as much as possible on there as well. You can support the channel if you'd like to do so. I'm thinking, well, people have asked me to do a Patreon for a pretty long time. I haven't done that yet, and I have to get on there as well. Thank you very much for everything. If you've made it through, thank you for your patience. And I'll see you soon, hopefully next week. See you later, guys. Thank you very much.